Hey, I'm gonna walk you through this tutorial on integrating Spring AI with mcp.run. First of all, you're gonna need obviously a JDK installed, and recommend you to use SDK man. It's really easy to use, and you can manage all of your JDKs on your machines. Then you're gonna need a GitHub account, and then for this example, I'm gonna show you Spring AI with OpenAI. So I'm gonna need, you're gonna need an OpenAI account and an OpenAI API key. But the same code can be reused for the most part for other backends. In fact, the Spring AI interface supports a lot of chat models. So there's support for Anthropic, for obviously OpenAI, for Mistral, and even for running locally on Ollama. On the repo, you will find the full code for these examples with OpenAI, but you will also find an example with Ollama, so you can run your models locally. All right, let's navigate to start.spring.io, start.spring.io. And let's fill in the details. I'm going to use com.calypso.examples. I'm going to copy paste from the tutorial here also. This one, and then the artifact Spring AI MCP4J, NCPX4J, which is also the name, and then the package name. We're going to use com.calypso ncpx4j.examples. There we go. All right. Then for this example, I'm going to use Maven because I usually use Maven, but if you love Spring and Kotlin, probably you're going to use Gradle. It will just work just the same. And then what we're going to need are the dependencies. So since I'm using OpenAI, I'm going to look for OpenAI, the traditional flavor, not Azure. And then I think you got everything you need to get started. So you can generate the project. It will be downloaded, and then you can unpack it wherever you want. So let's navigate to that project. All right, in order to make everything work, you're going to need to navigate to the repo, to the pom.xml, and add the dependencies. One dependency is only needed, and it's the dependency to ncpx4j. Currently, ncpx4j is available on Jetpack, but soon it will also be available on Maven. But for now, it's all right to use Jetpack. So please remember to add this few lines to the repo section of your POM, and then the right version. Then we're going to need to configure the parameters for our model. So we're going to need an OpenAI API key and ncp.run and an ncp.run session ID. As you can see, my application.properties looks exactly like this. This means that these values will be read from the environment variables. You can also set them here in the run configuration of your IDE if you're using, for instance, IntelliJ IDEA. Or or you can just set your environment variables. If you have seen other tutorials, you will be familiar with how you can get the ncp.run API key. But just to help you, I'll show you how that works. You can run this tool, and this tool will automatically navigate and bring you to the right web page. So I'm going to paste this command in my window, run this command, and then it will automatically launch a browser window for you where you will be able to authenticate. Once you're logged in, you should make sure that you have at least two servlets installed in your profile. So your profile should contain the fetch, at least the fetch servlet, and the eval.js servlet, and that's the minimum you need. Obviously, you're free to test out with whatever combination of servlets you want, and you can install whatever servlets you want. But obviously, this is if you want to follow along. That's what we suggest. All right. Now, the OpenAI implementation for Spring requires you to adapt one of the core libraries, one of the core interfaces for MCP-X4J to the one that Spring accepts. So let's do that. So the interface that Spring defines, it's called function callback, and it exposes a bunch of getters and one call method. So we're gonna define that, but because we are using the MCP-X4J library, all we're gonna need to do is basically delegate some of these fields, and we'll be done. So it's pretty easy. So let me show you. As you can see, I'm essentially wrapping this core class called MCP-X tool, and then all you'll need to do is get name, get description, get input type schema, and that's it. Please notice that the call method is just invoking the tool.call method, but it's adapting the contents. So in this example, just to be quick, I'm going to use just a string interpolation, but you can validate the payload to make sure everything works correctly. Now we're going to write our main entry point for the Spring library. We're actually going to adapt whatever was generated by the Spring initializer. We're going to inject the API key field that is defined here in our config file, the base URL, which is optional and defaults to www.mcp.run. You don't have to define that explicitly if you don't want to, but we're going to use it here just for completeness. And then the profile ID is also optional, and it defaults. Usually it's default. We're going to instantiate the MCP-X line library using our API key and our base URL. Then we're going to refresh the installation for the default profile ID. This is necessary. And you can also schedule this invocation periodically so that the tools will be refreshed. But make sure that if you do refresh the tools, you also refresh the functions that are available to the model. So for this example, we just want to refresh the installations once when you start up the application, and then we won't refresh it anymore. But you're free to schedule this invocation. This is thread safe. Then we're going to adapt the result of the mcp-x.servlets to our function callbacks that we just defined here. The definitions is below here, and it's just stream transformation. We're just invoking our wrapper function, and then we are creating an array to pass it to the right API. Then we're going to instantiate our chat client that's going to be injected here with default functions and system prompt, and we suggest you to use this system prompt. This should give you good results with OpenAI. And then here we just have a very simple chat interface with input and output, and you can write whatever you want. And I'm going to show you how that works. All right. First of all, make sure that you export your OpenAPI key and their mcp.run session ID if you're using the environment variable configuration. And then you can just start your application with Maven Spring Boot Run. I'm also going to run package just to make sure that everything is built. And I should be presented with a prompt. There you go. There's the U prompt. And I'm going to paste here our question, right? I want to know what would happen if I put the string hello mcp.run into this hash function that we passed through a GIST, GitHub GIST, okay? Right. Let's see what will happen. As you can see from the log, it's invoking the mcp.run function fetch, and it's invoking fetch over this gist, and then it's invoking eval.js, and then it translated the content of the C function, because this is a C function, into equivalent JavaScript, and then it's invoking over hello mcp.run as instructed. and the result is the negative number, and it's the same as expected for from the tutorial. So it's pretty cool. There is also an equivalent example for Olama, which is essentially the same for most of the code. In fact, for the most part, it's actually the same. The Java code is essentially is really the same, just pretty much copy and pasted. What changes are the dependencies and the config. So while the OpenAI examples depends on Spring AI, OpenAI Spring Boot Starter, the Olama version depends on the Olama Spring Boot Starter, and why in the application properties for the OpenAI tutorial we had configuration parameters for OpenAI, here we have configuration parameters for Olama. Your mileage might vary with the results depending on the model that you pick. Llama 3.2 works pretty well with tools, but it might be not as smart as OpenAI at figuring out how to thread them together. But you can play with it and have fun with it. It will work. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.